guys, welcome back to the channel. Sandra here, and we are living in a little bit of a construction zone right now, so I'm going to film outside today. Today's topic is going to be baby sun conures or juvenile sun conures. The reason that I want to talk about this is because we get a lot of questions, comments, DMs, emails regarding this topic on how to take care of them, what's the best way, how to feed them, how much formula to feed them, and all this stuff. So I'm going to answer all of our most common questions on this topic, and I will do the best I can to answer them and remember what it was like when Mango was a little baby. So very quickly and briefly, if you don't know the story of when we got Mango, it was almost 2 years ago. We had moved to Thailand and we had no plans on actually getting a bird, and it just kind of happened. And Mango came into our lives and we just became bird people. Bird people, you know what I mean. So we are obsessed with parrots, and we're obviously obsessed with our little baby Mango, who's not so much of a baby anymore. He is now technically a full adult. They grow up so fast. First most common question that I get about baby or juvenile sun conures is how much formula do I need to feed them and how often? So I'm not a breeder, so I can't tell you the exact amount, and I will do my best to remember what we did. When we would mix the formula, we would do it in a lukewarm water, and then it would go into the syringe, the millimeter amount that they told us to feed him, and we would slowly feed him through the syringe. But if you have a really good breeder, they are going to tell you how many milliliters you're feeding during each feeding and how many times a day. They're also going to provide you with the formula. But most breeders will actually give you your baby sun conure or juvenile sun conure once they are weaned, so that you do not have to hand feed them the formula. This is super important because hand feeding formula to baby birds is really tricky, and you just have to be really careful and knowledgeable during a baby bird's development. Their eating schedule and the way that they're taken care of is really crucial and important, so it should be something that is done by professionals who do this on a regular basis. Make sure you talk with your breeder, you ask all the right questions, and make sure that it's a good, reputable breeder. Next, you should get your bird when it is already weaned so that you do not have to hand feed them formula. So that's another important thing. You want to probably avoid that part. But most people think that when they're hand feeding the formula, they're creating that bonding experience with birds. What the breeder does when they're hand feeding the formula to the bird is they're teaching them to bond with humans, not with one human or one person in general, but to be comfortable around people and trust people. So if you're not the one hand feeding formula to your bird, that is okay. But if you get your bird from the breeder and they are still hand feeding formula, my first tip is make sure you follow the breeder's exact instructions. The next tip is to make sure that you're using the same formula that the breeder was using. Don't switch the formula, just make sure you stick to the same one. Formula feed is really important while the baby is growing and developing because it provides the perfect balance of nutrients for their development. The other thing that I do remember is they showed us the consistency that the formula has to be. It was very specific, and we had to put a specific ratio of water to the formula, and the temperature of the water had to be very specific as well, and we had to mix it and make sure that the consistency was just right. It can't be too watered down and it can't be too thick either, so you need to find that perfect sweet spot. I'm actually wearing my feather shirt today, so I just wanted to show that off. Oh, it's a little breezy. Okay, the next most common question that we get is, when do birds wean off of formula? So there really isn't an answer to this question. Every bird is going to be different and you can't rush the process. You have to just let the bird wean on their own time. He was like taking his time with weaning, and that's okay. We were being patient with it, and we were just going with when he was ready to transition to eating solid foods all on his own. I actually don't have any videos of Mango really weaning or feeding him formula because at that time I was not YouTubing, and I just didn't think to take any videos of it. I was too concerned and busy about doing it right and making sure that he was being fed properly that I just don't have any footage of that for you guys. Sorry. We don't get to choose when the bird weans. The bird chooses when they're ready. Don't try to force your bird to self-feed before it's ready because it can be unsafe and they might not get enough nutrients that way. So make sure that it's on their own time. Instead of focusing on when the bird weans, because it will, and it will let you know when, and you'll start to notice that it's not interested in formula as much and it's eating more solid foods. But what we should focus on instead of the when is the how the bird is weaned. This is very, very important. A parrot must be weaned properly for developmental reasons, and unless you're a professional or a breeder, the hand feeding formula and weaning part should be something that's left to them. But if you are in charge of it, make sure that you seek professional help to make sure that the weaning process is done right. The next question is, what is weaning? So weaning is the process in which a baby bird goes from being fed either by the parents or by the human through a syringe and formula to being able to feed itself. It's when they become independent to self-feed. When a bird is fully weaned, it means it is able to eat entirely on its own without the need of being formula fed by a human or consuming regurgitated food from its mom and dad. The next most common request that I get on this topic is, Sandra, what are your tips for weaning? Well, my first tip is to start introducing foods with a texture and temperature that mimic the formula. So that is going to be your first best way to start introducing wholesome foods where they can self-feed. Next is going to be offering mushy steamed foods like sweet potatoes or other veggies that are soft, warm, and mushy, and something that they can pick away at. You also want to encourage them to play with their food so that they can learn what textures, flavors, and different veggies, grains, and wholesome foods that they like to eat. It's also a good idea to offer a buffet of different items for your bird. This is something that we would do with Mango, and we did small offerings throughout the day to make sure that the food never spoiled. New foods are offered in conjunction to scheduled formula feedings. It is the most effective kind of method for weaning. It allows your bird to experience the food by beaking at it, playing with it. Hand feedings will begin to be phased out systematically as the bird stops begging for the formula. Another good one is pellets. Make sure to choose a high quality, cold pressed organic pellet. Avoid the colored ones and make sure you choose one that has really good reviews. We love Tops. We also love Harrison's. Mango really loves Harrison's pellets over Tops, and I've talked about this before. So that's the one that he eats now. And pellets are really great for baby birds because they can actually break them apart. So it's fun for them to play with and learn how to eat and start munching and enjoying. Make sure that you're offering loads and loads of veggies. Vegetables are probably the most important thing in your bird's diet, and once they start eating their beans and grains and fruits along with their veggies, that's when you can start to introduce treats like nuts and seeds. Additionally, I also want to talk about fledging. Fledging and weaning are directly related to the early developmental process, and they kind of happen around the same time. Birds that are flying are also burning more energy, which makes their bodies crave the types of nutrients and foods that are going to give them that energy back. Next question, what about water for baby birds? When do I offer them water? So when you start weaning them and they start to get solid foods introduced into their diet, you also need to offer them water. Formula contains a lot of water on its own, so until the syringe feedings are a lot less, your bird may not crave that water. The mushy foods that you're going to offer will also contain a lot of the moisture that the baby needs. Do not give water through a syringe though. That's something that we should never do, and do not dilute the formula too much because that can lead to malnutrition, and malnutrition can sadly lead to death. Remember, baby birds are very delicate, and when they're born, they are extra delicate, so they need to grow up a little bit for a few weeks and be in the care of a professional or their parents to make sure that they are healthy before they come to a new home. As you're weaning your bird or feeding your bird and they are growing, there are two important things that we need to make sure that we're doing. Number one is weighing our bird and making sure that they're at a healthy weight, and this is going to also help you make sure that they're not sick. And the second thing is inspecting their droppings, making sure that they have healthy poop, because poop is going to tell you a lot about what's going on in their bodies and if they're healthy. Sun conure reaches adult maturity at about 2 years of age. Their full size from top to the tip of their tail is about 30 centimeters or 12 inches. Baby birds are super cute, but they're super delicate. I always miss when Mango was a little baby and all the cute little trips he used to give off. But now I love him just as much, and my love has grown for him. So if you're thinking about getting a baby bird or you have one, I hope that this helps you out. That's it for today, guys. We're gonna wrap it up because it's too breezy out here, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.